Good morning, and welcome to today's presentation about choosing the right university for you. My name is Margot McCoy Howe, and I am with the College Board International team as a consultant. I am broadcasting this morning from Colorado Springs, Colorado, where the skies are blue and the sun is out and the mountains look lovely. So I welcome you to this presentation as we talk about getting ready to go to university, especially if you are planning on coming here to the United States. I do work for the College Board, which is a not-for-profit organization, and we are dedicated to connecting students to college success and opportunity. So we will get started. I look forward to your questions, your feedback, and hope to give you some information that will be truly helpful to you. Today's presentation is going to be separated into 5 sections so that there is a little organization and we can go a bit slowly through the entire presentation with time for questions. The first part of the talk is about the timeline to prepare for study in the United States. I'll go through several general steps to take before you apply to study in the U.S., from narrowing your search to do what you want to do to be accepted. It's a complicated process for the U.S., and so we want to make sure that you have all of the pieces in place. Then we'll go to the Getting Started section, and this is the most difficult, I think, because it requires asking yourself what is important to you. The process of applying to U.S. universities involves several steps, so we recommend at the very beginning thinking about what is important to you, why you even want to come to the U.S. to study. And this will help narrow your search so it's not quite so overwhelming. Third, we'll talk about how to choose a university. What factors do you think about when you are choosing a university? We'll talk about costs, types of universities and quality of courses offered, resources, and finally, what is the best fit for you? There are about 3,500 universities and colleges in the United States, so there's a wide variety of choices, and deciding what will be best for you is what we really are going to focus on. Fourth, we'll talk about what kinds of resources there are for you, including the College Board resources and Education USA. Both of those together will give you just a bunch of information that will be very helpful as you embark on this little project of thinking about college. And finally, we'll talk about what about after you've been accepted? What are the steps that you need to take after you have been accepted? So that will be the 5 parts of our talk today, and I will look forward to any questions that you may have. I plan to stop every once in a while and answer some questions so they don't get too many and I have to go back too far. So please feel free to type your questions during the presentation, and I will do my very best to answer them. So first of all, what is a timeline for applying to U.S. universities? What are the general steps you should take, and when should you take them? The very first thing to do is to begin to gather information about institutions in the U.S. Sometimes you can start quite young, in middle school, first part of high school, and just notice what universities are talked about, who the people are that you know and where they went to school, and begin to have conversations about school, what it was like, where it is, and what kind of institution is it. We can go into a little bit more detail on this, but the search piece is one of the very first pieces that you will do. The second thing you will need to think about is whether you need to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. The TOEFL is the test of English as a foreign language, and the other test is the International English Language Testing System. Many universities will require that you demonstrate proficiency in English. So you will need to look into these tests and see if it's required that you take them. Third, what types of courses should you be taking in high school? If you attend a school that offers AP exams, or if you take an AP exam, that's very important. But coursework is extremely important to the people in the admission committee at almost every single university. They want to make sure that you are academically prepared to be able to be successful when you come to study in the United States. We'll also talk about standardized tests like the SAT. I'm sure you've heard of the SAT. Every student in the United States is taking an admission test, and most of them do take the SAT. So we will talk about the College Board test, the SAT. And then finally, because you are coming from outside of the U.S., it's very important to get your financial plan in order. And talking to your parents is obviously the most important piece there, because this will be a family decision. And once you have everything prepared, then it's time to go ahead and apply. And if you are looking to, I have a question about upgrading education, a career upgrade. Again, you will go through similar kinds of a process. You won't need to take the SAT if you have already finished college or finished a program in your country. But you will have to look at what the requirements are, what the coursework is that you need in order to come to an upgrade program, and what the financial implications are. Once you have applied to your university of choice, you will usually hear back within a few months, sometimes a few weeks, but most of the time it will take a little bit longer than that. And then what do you do once you hear back? It's easiest if you separate all of this into chunks. So I tend to think in terms of years. What should you do in the year before you even begin to think about studying in the U.S.? 2 years before, that's what's in the green box. It's when you do your searching. It's when you find out about whether you will need to take the English proficiency test. You will look at the courses you're taking, and the earlier you start this course selection information searching piece, in other words, plan your coursework for high school, the better off you are, so that you make sure that you are totally academically prepared for college and university wherever you go, whether it's in your own country or in another country, Canada, the UK, or whether it's in the US. So being prepared academically becomes a very important piece. Taking the SAT would be for those students who are coming out of high school. So you would not be taking the SAT if you already have some university training and then you are looking to apply to a school in the US. So discussing that with admissions people at the schools that you're looking at becomes very important. But if you're coming out of high school, you will need the SAT. And of course, finances, the sooner you start looking at a financial plan, the easier and better it will be for the road ahead in terms of applying and going ahead and coming to the U.S. 1 year before you apply, get all of your paperwork together, you go through the procedure, you make a decision, and then you finish and pack your bags and come on over. So the sooner you can begin this whole process, the better, and the best place to begin it is with course selection and search, looking for schools that you think you would be interested in attending. So before you get started, Figuring out what is most important to you. This is really a very difficult kind of task. It's asking you to define your priorities. What do you want your life to look like career-wise? What do you want in terms of education? What are your priorities? What are your values? What are your long-term goals? Where do you want to be in 5 years or 10 years? How far do you want your education to take you? And this is often discovered both by writing, doing some self-reflection, as well as talking with family and friends and teachers and professional people that you know. How can they help you as you move along this pathway? Another question to ask is, what are your interests? If you obviously are thinking about coming to the West, to my state in Colorado, you may be interested in outdoor sports. We're a very outdoorsy kind of state, and there's lots of hiking and biking and skiing. And if those are kinds of things that you want to incorporate into your life, then looking at a place like Colorado becomes very important. Thinking about weather, thinking about activities, all of these things are very important to your happiness when you come to the United States to study or go anywhere else to study. What do you want to do in the future? I will agree that there are so many choices out there as we continue to expand in our global awareness, as we continue to expand economically throughout the world, as we become a global society. There are many, many options for young people, for all people. So when you dream a little, what do you think about and would like to do in the future? And discuss the question with your family and your friends, why even study in another country? What is it you're seeking to lead you to think about going to another country to study? Just trying to open your own boundaries and understanding of culture. What are your ultimate goals for coming to another country? And finally, how will you feel about being away from your family and friends? We are lucky today that we have Skype and FaceTime and you can stay in touch, but this will be a primary question that you will need to ask yourself. How do you feel about being away from family and friends? I am looking at a couple of the questions, and one of them is a liberal arts school the best fit for a student who wants to go to college undecided and maybe switch streams? To be honest, about 60+% of all high school students going into any college in the United States, most of them are choosing undecided. The requirement often is that you don't have to choose a major until the beginning of your junior year. That said, there are some very focused people who go to an engineering school because they want to be an engineer, and so therefore they aren't quite so drawn to multiple choices. But a liberal arts program, whether it be in a college or a university, whether it be small or large, will often offer that option to learn a little bit your first 2 years, take some coursework dabbling, and then make your decision at the beginning of your junior year. So a liberal arts education is offered at both the college, small college level, private college level, and public college level, as well as the university level. And if you want to pursue a master's in mechanical engineering, do you search for ranked universities or search for universities that, and the question isn't finishing here, it's easy to be drawn to the rankings. What you are ultimately looking for is the best fit university for you. So starting with the rankings is fine because you can get into the search piece, but then don't be afraid to spread out and look at smaller institutions or institutions that aren't on that top 10 list. Other factors to consider when you're choosing a university would be things like doing a comprehensive search. Don't just limit yourself to what you see in U.S. News and World Report or some ranking system. Actually, look at where you'd like to be, what you'd like to be doing, what you would like to study, who you would like to surround yourself with. That's what a comprehensive search is. You're also going to look at costs and academic quality and university resources, but ultimately, the most important thing is to search with a mindfulness as you look for the best fit for you. Here's some questions to consider. Does the university offer a degree in the area you would like to study? Obviously, that's a pretty important one. You don't want to go to a university or to a college and they don't have what you want to study. So focusing on finding out what programs a university has or a college and seeing if those are the degrees you would like to have. Second, what are the admission requirements for every particular university and college? We do not have a standard here in the United States. It's not one size fits all. Every single one of the colleges and universities have their own set of admission requirements. Now, granted, they look pretty similar. You have to be proficient in English. You have to have so many years of math, of science, of social studies. Many universities and colleges require foreign language, a language other than English, and that may possibly be your own native language. So being aware of looking at the admission requirements for every single university becomes very important. Is housing available on campus? Another huge question for people who are coming from another city, another state, or another country. What are the housing options on that campus? And what is the total cost of tuition, fees, and living expenses? Too many times people just look at that sticker price, how much is the tuition, but you also have to look at what are the rest of the costs involved. Lab fees, music room fees, pizza fees, like you have to be able to eat, and what are the travel costs from coming from another country. And finally, what type of support will a college or a university offer to international students? It's easy to get lost, and it's also easy to find help. But both take a little bit of time. The getting lost you can do all by yourself, but finding help will mean reaching out and asking. Let me take a quick look at some of the questions and see what I can possibly answer. Many of you are asking about master's degree programs, master's in public education, a master's in mechanical engineering, an upgrade for nursing. Again, you will need to ask the same kinds of questions, which is, do they have what you need? And what kind of support will there be? What are the admission requirements going to be to apply to these programs? Can they offer you housing? And what other support will there be for you? I have a question that says, how do I apply? We'll get to that in a little bit. I also have a question about, is science for major and religion for minor a weird combination? Very few things are weird in the worlds of universities these days. Again, that will be finding and doing research for that particular combination, perhaps finding a college or a university where you get to build your own major. All of these are the kinds of questions that you will ask as you go through the search process. Someone's asking me, what about the fit in capital letters? You know, there are so many colleges and universities that the fit will vary. You will find 5 or 6 or 10 universities that you think fit you fairly well. And so then it will come down to making decisions around housing and cost and size. And just getting a good idea of what you want in your life and from your education can help you narrow down and look for those places that might be a good fit. Again, I'm seeing lots of questions about higher education, providing programs in PhD programs in physical education, masters in electrical engineering. All of these kinds of things will be connected to the search that you do. Those are very particular questions that are difficult for me to answer, but if you already have a bachelor's degree, you will be looking for places that have programs that will allow you to extend your studies, and that would be most important in terms of finding the fit. Let me go back to the slides here, and then I'll come back to the questions in a couple of minutes. So, support for international students, extremely important as you go through this process. Searching for U.S. universities. Big Future is the site that we use most often, that I use as a college counselor here in Colorado in a high school. I use bigfuture.org because it offers me such a wide variety of being able to look at universities and colleges. All of you who have been asking questions about higher education, in other words, master's degree and PhD, will be able to see when you do some research on bigfuture.org whether those programs are even offered. Smaller colleges in the U.S. often end with the bachelor's degree. So one of the first things you will look for when you do research on Big Future is what degree programs are available. Do they go beyond the bachelor's degree? And when you search for U.S. universities, you can see over on the side, let me go back and show you again. This is the box that I am focusing on, and then there's a little box around that box, and it shows you, at a glance, will tell you quite immediately whether the programs are there that you need. Deadlines will be talked about. Majors and living environment, do they have housing for master's level students, for PhD students? What kinds of support will there be for a family coming over from another country? What's the campus life like? One of you asked me, how do I apply? And here's the answer right there, applying. And then finally paying. Most important is this little blue box right here that says for international students. That's where you will want to focus and see what is available for you and how they will help you go through this process as an international student. I will tell you that I know of probably no university or college in the United States that doesn't wish to have international students to add a dimension to their student body that is very, very important for all students. So please focus on this little box when you do your research. Let me take a quick look at the questions. Would you still be able to apply to a university that requires more than 1 year of foreign language? Again, these are questions that will be particular to the college, and looking at the college and being in touch with the admission director who takes care of international admissions. That's the person that you want to go to. Those people are listed on the college websites, and you can email them. Ask your questions directly of those professionals at each individual college. That is the best way to answer some of your more specific questions. Are students with liberal arts major at a disadvantage as compared to those with specialized majors? Wow, that's sort of a value question, and I don't know that I'm qualified to answer that. I'm a liberal arts major, so my degree is in English and then in counseling. So I guess I don't want to believe I was at a disadvantage. There's room for everybody, and And the specialized majors are certainly very strong in the U.S., but a liberal arts major allows you a lot of flexibility. So do some discussion with your family, with your friends, with professionals that you know, and find the international admissions person at the colleges you're looking at and email them directly with some of these kinds of questions. Again, how about a master's degree in forestry? A wonderful degree, needed throughout the world. You will be looking first for a forestry degree and then seeing if the program also goes into depth and allows you to study at the master's level. Do I need to pick the courses from all the fields in liberal arts? Each college, each university has their own course selection, grouping. So your research becomes very important in finding out what you need before you get there and what kinds of courses will you need to take while you are there in order to satisfy a degree requirement. I'll come back to questions in just a second and finish with costs to consider. Excuse me. That is very important for those of you who are coming from another country, although when I speak to families here in the U.S., it's very important to them too. You will need to have the financing to pay for tuition and fees, room and board, that means a place to live and food to eat, books and supplies. Computers are required everywhere now. Some universities and colleges help you get them. Others require you to bring them with you. Transportation, getting from point A to point B, that's a concern whether you're in the country or whether you're outside of our country. My children went to school on the two coasts. I'm in Colorado. I still had to pay for them to travel to Connecticut and to California. So transportation costs are very important and expensive. And then your personal expenses, just your living expenses. All of these need to be written down and have a way to handle them personally and with your family. So costs become very important at any level of study. Another university that you can look at, St. Edward's, is in Texas. Remember that the box over here on the side tells you at a glance and gives you some information about applying and about deadlines and about what majors are offered. So the person who asked about the forestry major, you would find it in this little box. I don't know if St. Edward's has a forestry major, but you had learned whether it does or doesn't if you look in this information piece right here. And again, for international students, this blue box just becomes so important for you who would be coming from another country. Notice that down here, there are 90 students, 90 international students who are sharing $1,667,908 of aid. How much aid is given from a university, whether they financially support international students? These are very important questions to ask and to have answered as you consider universities. What is the level of support offered to an international student? What is the level of support that a university is able to offer? These are questions you want to have answered. Let me take a quick look at questions again. Do universities require classes 11 transcripts for admission? No, I'm not sure that I totally understand your question, but a transcript is just simply a piece of paper verifying what you are bringing into the university. My transcripts, my high school transcripts, are one page. So you need to have coursework, and that's possibly what you're asking about. Uh, are the SAT scores only what impact admission? Not in the United States. The SAT is one factor in a group of factors, and I'm going to speak about that in a second. Do you have to live on campus, or can you rent an apartment near the school? That will be according to the housing requirements of a college or university. If you are a freshman coming out of high school or secondary school preparation, students are almost always required to live the first year on campus. If you are coming in as a master's degree student, that's completely different, and you will ask the admissions office and the university what kind of housing is available. I am unaware of the degree I would like to pursue. Well, it puts you in good company with many, many students in the United States. Part of your research is, what do you enjoy? What do you like to study? Then you begin to narrow down and say, okay, what fields are available to me in the areas that I like to study? So being undecided is not a bad thing. It offers you lots of opportunities to begin to think about what you want to do with your life. It's a wonderful question. What is the average life expenses per month in the U.S.? That just so varies by the amount of money you have. I would suggest maybe doing a Google search on monthly expenses in the U.S., average monthly expenses. You will find that they vary from north to south and east to west. Some cities are more expensive than others. Some states are more expensive. It's very interesting how that works. For undergrads, is there a difference between taking AP or IB? Most colleges, and I'm going to talk about that next because I'm going to stop the questions and go back to my slides, are looking for a rigorous curriculum. That means taking classes that fully prepare you for the academic challenges of college. For U.S. citizens studying in the U.S., for my high school students, because I am a high school counselor, I am encouraging them all the time to take either an IB course or an AP course, always asking a little bit more of themselves, preparing themselves at a higher level. In the U.S., that word is called rigor. Are you taking the most difficult classes available to you for which you are prepared? Now hear me again. Are you taking the most difficult classes available to you for which you are prepared? In other words, have you taken the coursework ahead of time in order to be successful in that more difficult class? Colleges are looking for academic growth, moving from level 1 to level 4, always moving forward in your coursework so that you are doing the very best you can to prepare yourself intellectually and academically for college. Let's look a little bit at factors in admission. Primary factors are quality and rigor of academic courses. This is just what I talked about. What is the quality of the courses you are taking in your home school, be it a bachelor's degree program or a high school, secondary school program? Are you challenging yourself a little bit more every single year? What is your academic performance, your grades, your marks? Yes, colleges and universities are looking for people who are successful, but always going a little bit further. So success can sometimes be marked by taking that more difficult class. What are your test scores? For the person who asked the question about is SAT the only thing, as you can see, the answer is no. It's only one of several things. And then there's also in the U.S. the personal statement and essays to write. There are also extracurricular activities. What else do you do with your time? It doesn't even need to be a club or a sport. It can be a hobby, but how are you using your time? Letters of recommendation. Those are required from people who know you, but primarily from people who teach you. And are you interested in this college? What kind of research have you done as you move through your academic preparation to come to the U.S.? And those all together make up what you're looking for when a college is looking at you. Admission testing for U.S. colleges and universities. First, the admissions test. Most four-year universities and colleges require students who are coming out of secondary school, not students who already have a bachelor's, but students who are coming out of secondary school, to take an admission test such as the SAT or the SAT subject test. If you are coming as a master's level student or a doctoral student, please check the college websites to see if there is a test that you must take. Many colleges require the graduate record exam, the GRE, but you need to do that research because that's out of my realm of expertise. I'm a high school person. So please be aware of any admissions tests you may have to take, even though I'm just saying in this slide the SAT or the SAT subject test. You also have to show proof of English proficiency, and that becomes a very important part because in order to study in the U.S., you will need to be able to understand the language and write the language at a level acceptable to the college or university. And that is taking the TOEFL or the IELTS, whatever test the college is requiring. Applying to U.S. universities, there are application processes and there are deadlines. And the application deadlines now this is for undergraduate, make sure when you do your research that these are either the same or different or have a little bit of a tweak to them if you are looking at master's level or PhD level. Regular admission, the applications are almost always due in December or January with a response from the college in March or April. If you are looking at early decision, which is a choice, a decision that you make, that's usually in November and you will hear in December or January. Early action, which is non-binding, you get an early answer, but you don't have to decide. With early decision, you make a decision before you apply that this is the college you want, and if they accept you, you are bound to have to go. But early action, you get a decision, but you do not have to make a decision yet. How confusing is that? Make sure that you study your admission pages of a university webpage, that you talk with a university person. The international admissions professional is the person you would ask about these somewhat confusing words and word choices. Rolling admission is ongoing, but these are the deadlines. I'm a high school counselor, and I really want my students to begin applying in October, to be totally honest. I don't want any waiting until the last minute, December or January. So I am perfectly happy with applications that are being sent out in September and October, because then we have some chance to work with them. The Common Application is an online application accepted at more than 450 colleges and universities in the U.S. The Common Application is for undergraduate study. It is not for graduate school study. So always, always separate. Where are you in this process? Are you a secondary school student looking to apply for a bachelor's degree program? Are you a bachelor's already looking to apply for master's and PhD? The websites will give you the information. The admissions people will give you the admission information. When you look at a college or university webpage, go to the graduate school and look for admission to graduate school, and then ask the same kinds of questions that we've been asking here. Familiarize yourself with the college application process, and note that institutions may add questions or essays to the application. So be prepared to be writing answers for U.S. applications, whether you're applying to bachelor's programs or to master's PhD programs. When you apply to U.S. universities, expect that schools will require letters of recommendation from your teachers, from your professors. They will want to see letters of recommendation that talk about you as a student. That will be true whether you're applying to bachelor's programs or higher level programs. Always look to the people who have taught you, particularly in English, math, science, or foreign language. These are your major people that you are going to go ask for support for your application. Always give your teachers time to complete these recommendations. That's why I like my students to start in September and October, so that they have conversations with their teachers and nobody is in a rush. Essay requirements, most colleges will add essay requirements to their application process. Be aware that that's what's going to happen and look for it. Make sure you don't miss it in the process. And check the requirements of the schools to which you want to apply. Let me take a quick look at questions here. As an international student, does this affect my admission because I am not an American citizen? Absolutely not. An international student is looked at differently, but just as positively, because colleges and universities want to have international students. Again, look at that blue box that says for international students. Make an email connection with the international admission professional at a college or university, and know that universities here in the U.S., colleges in the U.S., are actively seeking international students to add a dimension of breadth and wonderfulness to their college campuses. So please, if you are thinking about coming to the U.S. to study, know that you will be welcomed, and that's part of the search that you're going to do. Are you disadvantaged if you require financial aid? That is going to take a little bit of research. There are certain requirements for coming to the U.S. to study, and being able to financially support yourself is a very important thing. So please, I do not want to make a blanket response that you are disadvantaged. I am going to encourage you as an international student, as well as any of my students here in my high school, to do their research on how to pay for college. What's the difference between tuition and fees? Tuition is tuition. It's what the college requires. Fees would be, sometimes they're $50, sometimes they're $200. It's for using the lab or using the piano rehearsal studio. It's whatever program you're in, if there are any individual fees for participating in that program. And do universities have 100% for international students, and what are the requirements? I'm not sure what the 100% means, but each of the universities will have requirements, And that's that little blue box on the search page, bigfuture.org. Please go there and look. Costs will be defined as being for one semester or for 1 year. You will need to read the web pages and understand that. Is 1150 a combined score of math and critical reading sufficient for getting into a good college? Please look at the web pages and understand that each university and each college is different. Let me go back to some of the pages and I can give you a good answer to that. Where to start? Bigfuture.org is an excellent place to start to find out the most relevant information about study in the U.S. And you can also look at AP credit, IB credit, CLEP credit if you are an older student who has taken some courses and you would like to test out of some information. So read the information about AP credit, IB credit, and CLEP. All of them will give you options. Now, is 1150 a good score? Each of the universities will give you a page that says something like, here's our median score range. And you will be able to see where you are because you can put in your reading, put in your math score, put in your writing score, and then it will gauge whether you are within the 19% who had the highest scores, the 37%, the 37%. You will be able to see where you fall. This kind of research becomes very important. Knowing whether you are falling into the accepted range, whether you're higher than the accepted range or lower. If you are lower or higher, it still doesn't mean you can't apply. It just means looking at where they're mid 50%. Where do most of the students come from who are attending that university? So please take a look at this information on bigfuture.org. Let me see if I have a question around that. Will I be at a disadvantage if I need to study physics in the U.S. but have not studied for a while in my country? Again, looking at, I know I'm just repeating myself, but it's so important to go and look at the web pages for these universities. They will tell you what you need to do, making contact with the international admissions professional at the bachelor's level, at the master's and PhD level. These are very important contacts to make. Begin with bigfuture.org and then go particularly to the college and university website. How do you apply? It's a very simple question, but it's not been completely clear. How do you apply? If you go to the web page of the university, it will give you the steps for application. I just encourage you, those are your big resources. Bigfuture.org is a start, and then the university web page itself. And if you go to the admissions page, it will pretty much give you a 1, 2, 3, 4 list on what you need to do to apply. For example, the SAT. If you are an undergraduate, if you are looking to apply as an undergraduate, the SAT is a primary test that you will have to take. And the College Board offers it as a PSAT in the junior year as a practice test, but you can also go to the SAT site on the College Board website and take some practice questions so that you know what to expect in these tests. Another great website to look at is international.collegeboard.org, where you can explore different opportunities. Study engineering in New York and see what is required. Study in the U.S. What do you need to do? to answer the question of the person who said, it's not been made completely clear to me, it is very confusing. I will say that. We have a complicated process in the U.S., but there are many resources hoping to help you through a step-by-step process to understand. Bigfuture.org, the university web pages themselves, international.collegeboard.org, where they go through how to study in the U.S. And then I do believe that one of the strongest things, besides looking at U.S. study, is to also look at, and I think I'm getting to that webpage right now, Education USA. I cannot emphasize enough the value of this page. If you just Google it, if you can't remember the web page, Education USA, it will pop you up. You will find your country. You will find help there. Notice that, let me see if I missed it. I guess I didn't. But right here it says how to apply. Those are your questions. The question that was asked, I don't understand how to apply. Please go to Education USA and to that web page, because it will give you so many resources, including a personal resource in your individual country. So these are the strongest resources for you. Bigfuture.org, collegeboard.org, international.collegeboard.org, and Education USA. Education USA is just arm of the United States government out there helping students to manage the process of coming to the U.S. to study. It's just a super page. I use it when I'm working with foreign exchange students in my high school, young people who've come over to be in the high school for a year or to study. So these are your resources: advanced placement or whatever is offered in your high school, SAT and SAT subject tests. All of this is explained on collegeboard.org. But if you start right here with bigfuture.org, it will get you started in the process. And then what do you do after you're accepted? This is when you really need to connect with Education USA, because you will have to have a passport and a student visa. You will need to check the health insurance requirements, immunizations, be able to confirm where you're going to live, understand your transportation, USA, Education USA, educationusa.info. Think about financial aid, think about how you're going to pay for this, and take advantage of universities' resources online, and talk with current students and alumni. But please, please visit Education USA, because it will be the strongest support in your country. And then make connection with the college admission people in the U.S. And to learn more, attend college fairs if you have them in your country, or online. You can search for them. Speak with an admission representative. Your key person is the international admission representative at the colleges you're looking at. Ask about financial aid and talk to students in your own country who have come to the U.S. to study. Use College Board resources like Big Future and College Board International. I've got some time left, about 5 minutes, so I'm going to go back to the questions. If you have high SAT scores but not amazing grades, will you be able to get into an Ivy League school? I don't know. Again, you've got to go to the university website and see what they say. I guess those amazing grades would be, or not amazing grades, would be In what kinds of courses did you get those grades? Were they very difficult courses, the hardest that they have at your high school? And, what is your background? It's going to depend. And I know that's a really fuzzy answer, but your high SAT scores show that you have the ability. So you might have to explain, if you have that level of ability, what happened with the grades. So again, go to the schools and see what they say. Does a dip in junior year scores sound bad? The freshman, sophomore, and senior year scores were excellent. No, dips are not always bad. They're not bad at all in some cases. Usually there's some explanation for it. Or it could have just happened because of the coursework you were taking. But as long as you rebounded, that's the important thing. So they're always looking for upward movement, both in courses that you are taking as well as in energy that you are putting forward for those courses that you're taking. If I choose a major for my first year and find out that I do not want to pursue it, am I able to change your major? Well, you're talking to someone who changed her major 4 times. So yes, as long as you are prepared to complete the coursework that is required for your major. I had to go an extra summer because of changing my major. So just know that the first year often in university in the U.S. is a building year, and you're taking English, math, social studies, science. And so you will have enough foundation courses that it might not be too difficult. But yes, many students change their majors and often do it at the end of the first year. What is the minimum limit to my recommendation letter pages? Oh, I write many recommendation letters and I try to limit them to 1 page. Admission people are not, they're reading hundreds and hundreds of applications. They do not want to be reading 4- and 5-page recommendation letters. So you will want a recommendation letter that is very specific, that talks about you as an academic prospect, possibility, and it does not need to be long. You will have to see with questions about affordability, especially if a family doesn't feel they can afford the education in the U.S., what are the possibilities? That will have to do with your research. There are some colleges and universities that have more money to offer students than others, and trying to find places that both fit you academically and fit you financially is what your research will be focused on. Is it better to decide the university first or the course first? I think it's in connection. You want to find a university that has what you think you want to study, as well as some other options. So if you say, I really am interested in history and I would like to focus on the 1800s, there may be many universities that have that. You aren't specific yet as to what you want to study about the 1800s, but that's a time of the world that is interesting to you, then you would look for universities that have those kinds of courses. So it's a little bit of a holding hands kind of thing. You do a little bit both. Am I at a disadvantage if I don't have AP classes because they're not offered at my high school? No. You are never at a disadvantage for not taking something that is not offered. What will be asked of you is if you are taking the most rigorous curriculum that is offered. You are always, always judged and processed on what is offered to you and how did you take advantage of what was offered to you? My time is about up. I thank you all for attending. Please remember bigfuture.org, Education USA, and do your research. And thank you very much. I hope you have a great day today.